Whispers Around the World, a Heal Our World book from SufferingWell. Chapter 3, Belief and Unbelief. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, its hands nearing 6. Beth Ann glanced at it, her fingers hovering over the keys of her computer. She could have left for the evening. She'd done enough to call it a day. But instead, she stayed in her chair, pretending to be engrossed in the latest maintenance requests from the residents. The faint hum of voices drifted through the thin walls, coming from the community room down the hall. She could just make out Yuri's voice, confident and clear, welcoming the small gathering. She'd seen a few people trickle in earlier, faces she recognized but didn't know well. Her curiosity had nearly gotten the better of her, but she convinced herself she wasn't ready for that yet. Not to join, just to listen. She clicked through a few files, though her mind wasn't on them. She strained to hear the conversation through the closed door, catching bits and pieces. Yuri was saying something about praying for strength, about lifting up the broken places in their lives and the world. Beth Ann closed her eyes for a moment, leaning back in her chair, letting the words wash over her. "They really believe it's making a difference," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Imagine that, they actually believe God's listening. To them, of all people. The thought both baffled and intrigued her. She'd once believed in that kind of faith, but life had beaten it out of her bit by bit. Now, listening to them felt like peeking into a world she no longer belonged to. She heard someone else speak, a man's voice, shaky but strong, sharing something about his wife's illness, about the comfort he found in knowing others were praying for him. Beth Ann felt a lump rise in her throat. She glanced around the empty office, as if the walls might catch her with her guard down. Comfort, huh? She whispered, looking out the small window. Would be nice to believe in that again, wouldn't it? She let her gaze drift back to the clock. Almost 6:30 now, and the meeting was in full swing. She could hear them praying together, their voices blending, soft and steady, a whisper, then gaining strength. There was something almost soothing about it, like the lullaby her mother used to hum when she was a little girl. A memory surfaced unexpected, a time when she'd knelt by her bed, praying for something simple, something small. She'd believed back then that every little prayer was heard, and now she wasn't so sure. What would it even be like, she muttered, to feel that kind of peace again, or to feel anything? She caught herself, shaking her head. You're getting soft, Beth Ann. Just because they're over there praying doesn't mean you've got to start believing again. But the voices in the community room continued, unperturbed, and a strange warmth filled her chest. She sat there, listening, unwilling to leave. She felt like an outsider watching from the shadows, her heart caught between disbelief and a yearning she couldn't quite admit to herself. The words, the prayers, they tugged at her, even as she fought against them. When the meeting ended and the voices quieted, Beth Ann finally rose from her chair, gathering her things. She locked the office door and took one last glance at the empty hallway. There was a flicker of something inside her. Hope, perhaps, or curiosity. It wasn't enough to make her join them, not yet. But it was enough to keep her listening. As she walked out into the night, she realized she was already looking forward to the next meeting, wondering what she might hear.